You know, last week was really powerful and very moving. And for those of you who were here, there were a lot of things that were shared in the chat that were beautiful. They were affirming, and they lifted our spirits. And there are moments like this that are deep and powerful, and you think, "Wow, can anything be any more, any better than this moment that we have right now?" And and so we think, like, could we live on that all the time? Could we live in that place of just always having this wonderful sense of wholeness, this wonderful sense of connectedness, this wonderful sense of even perhaps beginning to believe that the truth of what we've written down could be for us, could be real. And and so this morning what I want to talk about is a little bit about that. There's the sort of fire or the explosion, and we like the sort of sometimes that really wonderful experience where there's fire, there's sizzle, there's something really moving about the moment. And then we also need something to capture that. We need the machinery, and the machinery or the structure is what captures that. And so you can imagine in a traditional gasoline engine, there's the explosion, right? And the explosion is the gas. But if there was only an explosion, there would be nothing much more than that. There'd probably be a whole lot of, wow, that was fascinating for those of us who like fire and explosions. That was interesting. Um, but then what? Then what? And so the machinery are some of the things that Paul talks about here in Thessalonians. There's both the, here's what I see in you, here's what I believe in you, and I know this is true of you. And then there is, okay, here's some instructions. Here's what to do. And so that's what I want to look at is in First Thessalonians 4. And we'll look at this verses 9 through 12. And we're calling this no drama. No drama. No drama, and hopefully something instead of drama, which is what I want to look at. So First Thessalonians 4, verse 9. And here Paul says this, now about your love for one another. We do not need to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love each other. And in fact, you do love all of God's family throughout Macedonia. Yet, we urge you, brothers and sisters, to do so more and more, and to make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. Now, here's the instruction part. Should mind your own business and work with your own hands, just as we told you, so that you may lead, or so that your life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. So once again, quiet life, mind your own business, work with your hands, so that you win the respect of others, and you won't be dependent on anyone. Now that sounds like, okay, that's not exactly the kind of message that we'd hope to hear, to us, ever being said to us. Hey, listen, lead a quiet life, mind your own business, do your own work with your own hands. How many are feeling real warm and fuzzy by that? That's just so inspirational, right? It's just like, yes, thank you, Paul. Wow, that felt so good. I just want to worship right now. I want to put my hands up. I'm feeling it. Unlikely. It feels rather, dry, a little bit like ouchy, and, you just sort of read it and want to move on, right? But actually in here is something really profound. Something I've discovered I find all the time in my work of encouraging and lifting up people. I think you will probably too. And that's what I want to look at this morning, is how dynamically powerful this is as machinery to capture some of the really good stuff that Paul is seeing happening within the church. And that's what he's saying. He's saying, look, you guys are really loving to each other. You're treating each other well. There's a lot of good stuff here. And so he's saying is, I see it, right? Instead of saying it's not there, here's what you need to do. Here's what's missing in your life, and this is what you should have. Paul doesn't start with what is wrong with you or what's missing with you. What he starts with is you already have it, right? We talked about this last week. You already have it. Now, what I want to do is kind of rain a little bit on your seed so that it grows. And so I'm going to give you some machinery that you can continue doing this as action that will generate even more of this experience of love between you two and all of you, between all of you together. That's what's going on here. And so he says, I see the love that you have for each other. You don't need to be taught about it. I don't need to tell you what to do here. I just need to encourage you. Keep doing it. Go further. Do more of it because that's who you really are. And so when he says, here's the deal, lead a quiet life, is starting out with that. And leading a quiet life essentially means, at least to my mind, means that it is a life that is free from a need for drama, the need for conflicts, the need for mental stimulation, noise, news, lots of talk, lots of stuff just always happening in our minds. And fourthly, the need for constant attention. Okay, so the need for drama, the need for conflicts, the need for mental stimulation, and the need for attention. These are fairly constant within most of us. Some of us would say, no, I hate drama. I hate drama. But our lives seem to find drama. We seem to be surrounded by it, right? That happened to me a few years ago. I realized, why am I always having drama? I don't like it, but it seems to always be around me. Then I find out, there's these subtle behaviors that I'm doing that are coming from a place of needing something outside of myself to keep my juices going, to keep me interested, to keep me fired up. And so it's weird. Sometimes you're going to find subtle behaviors, when you look close enough, where you're causing some of that, or you're at least feeding into it, and that's a need that we have sometimes to be distracted from our own lives, right? There's other distractions from our own lives. The distraction of, as I said, the distraction of like things like conflicts. Drama is like, someone else's stories and all this stuff, and we're getting into it. And conflicts are like, I need to have, I'm finding myself not needing or liking it, but I'm always finding myself in tension with someone else, right? And it seems to be, there's the problem. They are the problem. That person's the problem. Their behavior is the problem. The way they do this is the problem. The fact that they said that, the fact that they can't get unstuck over here, all of these things now are my problem, right? You ever feel that? Like everybody's problems around you are now your problems. It's like, dang it. If I didn't have your problems, I'd be free. I wouldn't have any of my own. Maybe. Unlikely. But that's a lot of our experience, is we find ourselves sometimes having conflicts. And they don't have to be explosive conflicts. They just can be very just mild sort of conflicts, but finding ourselves caught up in some of these things as another distraction. Mental stimulation. Talking to someone the other day who was saying, yeah, every time I go for a walk or a run, I need to have something playing. And I said, I totally relate. I couldn't mow the lawn without having a podcast going on and me listening to something or a book. And some of that's really good because you're repurposing things that don't require a whole lot of thought, and you can do something and reclaim it in a positive way. But I would also find it to be something of a distraction too. Like I needed noise, I needed distraction, mental stimulation to keep me from thinking about the things or doing the things that I needed to do. And so lots of conversations, lots of noise in our lives sometimes are good indication, sometimes, of that need for distraction. And then finally, attention, needing the attention on us, needing people to love us, needing to be, something is missing and I'm trying to get it from the outside. Once again, oftentimes because of an avoidance of some sort, that, I need this from other people. And so when Paul says, lead a quiet life, he is saying there are things that we're doing that are distracting and creating noise in our lives. This is what I'm interpreting from him, that are creating noise in our lives, and then create noise in our immediate environment. Because if it creates noise in us, it creates noise in our environment. And then it creates this noisy atmosphere within the collective. So within society, within groups, within churches, within families. And oftentimes, all this noise, this distraction, this lack of quiet, lack of calm is the result of that. Many spiritual masters, leaders, those who have really, I'm not talking TV personalities that are making a poop load of money off of selling books, and I'm talking about people that are really doing the work of living close to God. These people talk a lot about the discipline of living a quiet life, and they value it at a deep level. And many of them pull away from society to spend days in solitude and in silence. And they talk about the beauty of that and how powerful that is for restoring their own souls and restoring a balance and a harmony to themselves. And as much as I dislike that, I discipline myself to do that. It's not fun, but I discipline myself to do that. And I find it's effective, very effective at restoring that inner quiet. See, what I think Paul's talking about is not, hey, you guys are so noisy. Could you be quiet? Hey, you guys, you're doing such great work, but could you be quiet? It's not about that. It's about an inner quietness that then displays itself in a quietness of that's sort of a peaceful quietness, a gentle quietness that isn't a lack of busyness. That's the reason why he's going to say, mind your own business, work with your own hands. This is not about not being busy. This is about a quiet busy. You know what I mean? What about a quiet busy? It's like, I'm doing my work. I'm doing a lot of good things. I feel really good internally. I don't need a whole lot right now. My mind is focused. It's clear. You know those few moments when that happens? Those rare moments when that happens? That quietness is a beautiful thing. It doesn't seem to need a whole lot from outside. It's more prepared to sort of give out in a good way. All right, so quietness of a quiet life. Secondly, he says, mind your business. Is really what he's doing is quiet life is the sort of heading. And under that are, here's what it looks like to lead a quiet life. It's essentially, can you turn your attention now off of the drama, off of the conflicts, the mental stimulation, the attention? Could you turn your attention now more towards what is your business? What does it mean to mind your business? Some of us have been told that in ways that were kind of harsh, like mind your own business. And that's what it can feel like when we hear that. But that's not the spirit that Paul has here. It's not about trying to tell you to go away. It's instead about like very helpful, like tune into what is your work. What is the thing that you have control of, that you can produce tremendous fruit through that if you will focus in on that. There's a very positive spirit about this. It's not about go away, stop doing this, stop meta. It's like these are the distractions. Let's let go of those because it's something really wonderful and powerful that is yours, that God has given to you, that you can do, and only you can do, because you are the only version of yourself that exists on this earth. And so because of that, there's work for you to do that can be powerfully contributing to the whole. And that's what's on his mind, which is why he finishes with the way he finishes, so that you won't be dependent on anybody, so that you'll have the respect of other people. What was happening is in his day, there were people that were not working and not doing anything. And they were sort of free loafing. They were just kind of floating around. And what happens when you have a whole lot of excess time? You're not busy. You know what happens? Many of us have been laid off and have not had, been suddenly with all this time, and it is not good for our minds, is it? Lots and lots of space with nothing to do is not good for any human. So if you're there and you're feeling like my mind is going down, there's a lot of, I'm feeling more depressed, I'm feeling lower, I'm getting myself into other trouble. Don't think like, oh, I'm bad because when there's nothing going on, I'm, this is the way I am. I should be able to just be perfectly normal when I'm not busy. No human can. We're not designed this way. So grace to you. It is really tough when you're in a place where there is nothing for you to do or to contribute. We're not designed to be that way. And so that's what was happening. People that didn't have jobs, people that were many times widows, and others who were just sort of not busy. And so what ends up happening is we need to be busy, right? If we're not working on our own thing, we're going to work on something else. We're going to find ourselves distracted by stuff. We're going to watch daytime TV and get caught up in the dramas of daytime TV. We're going to get caught up in the news. We're going to get caught up in what Donald Trump is doing now. We're going to get caught up in all of these things if we're not focused on what is ours to do. What is ours to do, right? And what Paul believes is that even if you're laid off, even if you don't have anything going on right now, there is something you can do. Even if it's small, there is something you can do. And doing that little thing will actually start to produce fruit in your life. So when he says mind your business, it means focus in on what is yours that only you can do. Which it's not the task that only you can do. Like anybody could feed the poor, anybody can, but it's the way you do it. It's the way you do it that is going to be unique to you. And so Paul says this instruction: lead a quiet life, mind your business, and work with your own hands. I want to talk to you about I want to give you three stories real quick. Two of them are from clients of mine, and one is from my own life. This part where he says, work with your own hands, followed by this in this way: when you lead a quiet life, when you mind your business, when you work with your own hands, what happens is then you're not dependent on others and you win the respect of others. Okay. There's a lot in here to sort of get in our heads to make sense, sort of a logical flow here, but that's what it is. Quiet life. What is quiet life? Mind your own business, work with your hands, right? So lead a quiet life, mind your business, work with your own hands so that you can win the respect of outsiders, not being dependent on anyone. Three stories. First one is what I do first of all, let me set it up. What I do with a lot of my clients is dealing with some kind of problem they have. And almost always, when they communicate this problem, this struggle they have, there is both a sense of acknowledgement that there's something that I'm doing or that I need to do differently. And that's why I've come to you, Joel, or Jim as well as a coach. That's why I've come to you, Jim, because I've got a problem. Often, though, there's a bit of a victim message within these stories. And even certain personality types that pride themselves on being very independent and strong, almost always there's an area of neglect. There's an area where they still feel somewhat of a victim, even if they say, now I'm going to confront and go at the problem. There's still this mindset of somehow I'm the victim in this story. I'm the one who's being affected by something external to me. And this creates this sort of noisy internal life that produces a noisy external life. So I have one who, when I talk with him, it's funny, he's a client of mine, but when I start off the conversation, I say, how are things going? Great. Things couldn't be any better. I'm thinking, well, where are we going to go from here then? If everything is great, I'm not sure why we're talking, but great. Everything is going wonderful. Really? Yeah. Oh yeah. Business is awesome. Our relationship is doing great. Things are wonderful. And then I say, oh, wow, really cool. And I celebrate with him. I'm like, great. If this is what this call is about, is celebrating with you. Yeah, man, let's celebrate. But then pretty soon it leads to like, except there's one area that I might need your help with. And then it's, this situation. And he describes the situation. And it's that he has a problem with his dad. His dad and him have been in business together and they split up, but now there's tension between the two of them. And even the business that's remaining that they still have to work out, it's always done with tension. And he gets angry and he confronts and he attacks and he does what he can to kind of deal with the situation, and it's not being dealt with. And this idea of leading a quiet life, minding your business, and doing your work with your own hands comes up over and over again. Because even in this story, I asked him a question. I said, have you told your dad what you really feel? That your heart is broken over this, that you want a relationship with him, but that the way he speaks to you is so painful that it pushes you away and causes you to want to react and attack. Have you said those things to him? Have you said how much you really want to just have a relationship, a father and son relationship with him? And he stopped and said, nope, haven't done that. And all of that, he knows if he just deals with that piece of it, that the noise in his mind that is cluttering so much, and admittedly telling me it's taken up a lot of space in his head, the noise within his own emotions that is oftentimes being repressed, and then the noise that then is around him, right? Because if you don't deal with the noise in here, guess what? Every one of us around you will feel it. We pick up on your noise, right? And you pick up on my noise. If I'm not dealing with mine, you picking up on, you're feeling it. You can feel it the moment I start speaking on a Sunday morning. If there's some clutter inside me, my tone will be different, my attitude will be different, right? All of those things come out and we create noise. And so it's the simple thing sometimes that is the most difficult thing. It's, oh, I got to do my work, don't I? I got to deal with what's mine. Like I'm trying to control everything else in this area. And what I need to control is this simple thing of just communicating the truth of what I feel. So hard to do. Right? Another story is a woman, a stay-at-home mom. And she tells me that she's got this little freelance business she's doing on the side, and but all kinds of emotional noise going on, all kinds of mental noise, like I don't know what I don't really like this, I don't know if I really want to do this, and then issues with her husband and issues with her kids sometimes, and issues with the environment and people and politics and all this stuff. And literally all of this came up in one 30-minute conversation. Just all of it comes up. And it's like whack the mole. Geez, what do you want to deal with? Politics? What do you want to deal with? The weather? What do you want to deal with? Your husband? What do you deal with? It's like all these things. And in the end, what she realizes after a number of sessions is, I've got this sort of sense and this desire to do something that I've been avoiding. Well, what is it? Well, here's what I want to do. I want to start this yoga practice. And I want to bring in this personality system, the Enneagram, and I want to use both together. I just really believe that this is going to this has changed my life. I want it to change the lives of other people. Okay. Well, guess what? She starts that after a few more sessions. It goes way better than she ever expected. And then she ends her sessions with me. I haven't talked with her since. Other than for her to tell me things are going really good. And I'm finding that even though it's a struggle, even though it has its challenges and all that, I just feel so much better. And as a result, there's less noise. There's less noise in her mind. There's less noise in her soul. There's less noise in her environment because she was avoiding something. There's always an area, folks, that we're minding something else's business but ours. If you find yourself diving into politics, you find yourself diving into daytime TV, me in my case, like UFC and who's pissed off at who and who wants to fight whom and all this other stuff. And I found myself getting caught up in that last week. Like, what am I doing? And Conor McGregor got his butt kicked by, Poirier, that's like all this stuff. Right. And Mario's really happy about that. And like, there's all this stuff. And it's interesting. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not like you shouldn't watch this stuff. You should, but I know when I've gone too far. It's like I'm watching too much of this, and it's, what am I doing? What am I doing? And like, oh, I'm getting myself caught up in some other story, and it's not a bad thing. It's just recognizing I'm getting caught up because there's a distraction, because there's stuff that I'm really struggling with. So no shame on any of us. Just recognize how easily we can be distracted and then return back, right? So you come back. You just, okay, I went out here. Now can I come back to the work that's mine to do, right? It's always difficult sometimes to discern even what is mine to do, right? And we can talk about that. But that's the sort of helpful direction is as we go out to think about coming back to what is mine to do. Third story is that's my personal one. So a few years ago, I was busy with so many things, the church, trying to grow the church, trying to make the church the kind of place that I thought would make me happy. And what I found myself always being caught up in is in the stories of the dramas that were happening within our community, our church, the conflicts. And even though I disliked all of that, I was still caught up and couldn't seem to avoid them or get myself out. And then what I realized is it took me a few years, and I realized that the area of neglect, surprisingly to me, didn't seem to have any correlation with this at all. And it was that I just didn't have enough limits in my life. I had almost no limits in my life. And I felt like the voice that to me, I interpreted as the voice of God. Remember it was at a camp, youth camp, and it was the last day of youth camp. Or the last day of, it was a Friday. It was Saturday is the last day and we go home. Friday, and I hear the speaker speak on the Sabbath. And I walk out of that and I was just angry, just so angry. And I remember hearing God say to me so clearly, it was just this thought in my head that challenged me to the core of my being. He said, when are you going to finally start putting this into practice? And it was a simple message. It's like and I knew instantly all of the information came, all this like truth came rushing to my mind. You love the knowledge of it and you love all of this stuff, but you're not putting any of it into any sort of actual physical practice. And I was so caught by that. Like, I have lots of practices that are physical. I exercise, not the ones that's yours to do right now. And it was like, I want you to go. And so immediately I knew what it was. It was, I need to stop drinking alcohol right before bedtime. I didn't drink a lot, but I would drink, a little bit of alcohol before bedtime, sort of wind me down, relax me. And it affected my sleep. And I knew it affected my sleep, but I still was doing it. And I was going to bed at whatever time I wanted to go to bed, eating big meals right before bedtime. All of this, like doing whatever the heck I wanted to do when it came to this dimension, not taking care of financial issues, leaving that burden primarily on Patty, which she's still very good at, but still like not wanting anything to do in that space. I still struggle with all of these things that I mentioned to you, but I've made some improvements, and the little improvements I've made in this area bear fruit. And whenever I do move in that direction in the right way, it bears a ton of fruit. I don't have to be excellent at this dimension. I will never be great at this sort of space, but I will at least begin to improve in a way that doesn't create this excess noise that was happening in my life. And the moment I did, I felt a quietness, an inner quietness come in. And it's interesting that when you mind your own business, the work is really boring. It's really mundane. It's really not exciting and thrilling and all of this. But the little that you do produces tremendous fruit in your life. And that is something that for each of us, there's something that is on our plate for us to do. And it is almost a reflection of an area again where we're avoiding it. And that's the very thing that if we do, produces this quietness in our lives that then causes us to begin to live a life of minding our business, doing our work with our own hands, and less dependent on others. And the dependency shows up in things like questions to consider, and I'll throw these out to you, and then we'll be done. The questions to consider is, do I believe that others, and these questions that I'm providing to you are questions that are sort of something for you to evaluate, a way to evaluate, am I in some way neglecting some area and then shirking an area of responsibility and maybe putting it out onto others. So do I believe that that others are somehow in my way? Do I believe that others are the cause of my emotional distress? Do I believe that people are too slow? Do I believe that people are withholding something from me? Do I believe that others are a threat? Do I believe that I'm alone? In other words, that people aren't with me and giving me what I need. Do I believe that I am not enough? Do I believe that I do not have enough? Do I believe that I have to do everything and do it all well? Um, the good news is you don't have to be immediately free of these beliefs. You can surface them and take one small step in the direction of if imagining if this were not true, how would I live? So I want to leave that there for reflection for all of us. And as we reflect on this during worship, please, if there's something that pops to you that you think, oh yeah, this is an area that I can lean more into, reclaim my what is mine to do, right? And begin to lean more into that with this truth being in your minds that there's only one version of you on this planet. You don't have to be amazing and significant. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be anything grandiose. But whatever it is that's yours to do, there's only one version of you. This is why the Apostle Paul is saying, do your work, man, because there is something amazing that the rest of us will benefit from because you're an amazing human being. You're loved by God. You're created by God. You're gifted by God. You're loved by God. And so your love poured through your heart, doing your work with your own hands, it's going to be such an awesome gift to so many other people. And so if you put that something in the chat about what it is that you think, yeah, this is my work. This is my work. Please put that in there and we'll celebrate that with you.